there's been a lot of development in the property industry over the last few years, good and bad. But to get a real feel for, what is happening in the sector and also some of the, underlying gems in the industry, we're talking to real estate agent and property industry expert, Gretha Santos. It's a name that that everyone knows. And Gretha, thank you so much for having us today. And may I just say, it is very clear that you have a passion for beautiful living spaces. Thank you for having us at your home. It's stunning.
Thank you, Jochi. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a privilege. And it's really nice to have you guys here.
Awesome. No, really, I must say, I want to ask for the backstory on your home in a little bit. But first, how long have you been in the industry? Because I mean, it feels like, your name is synonymous with immaculate properties.
I started in the property industry by chance in 2009. That was never something that I considered doing. But in 2009, I used to work for my husband. I was his office manager. And beginning of 2009, he retrenched me.
Oh.
So that was very harsh. And I really wanted to do something. And I applied for a job at Uberbold Real Estate at that stage. And Isabel Bolt, she was a legend in her time as an estate agent. And then she took me under her wing and showed me the ropes. And I loved it from the get-go. I sold my first house in the first 2 weeks. And it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I felt like I've found my calling without really looking for it. I stumbled across it.
Excellent.
So it was from 2009.
So hubby giving you that resignation letter was actually the biggest blessing.
I don't even think I had the grace of a letter. I think it was just a verbal.
Like,
I think he fired me. But yeah.
All worked out in the end.
He did me a favor.
Absolutely. So where are you currently working and how's your journey been so far?
So I worked with Uberbold until 2017 when they closed down. And then I started with Just Property. So I'm working at Just Property at the moment. And I'm really happy there. It's a very nice bunch of people. And I'm a creature of habit, so I don't fall around. So I'm very happy at Just Property.
No, absolutely. And Just Property is doing amazing work. I mean, I think I've also had a few rental contracts with them. Hopefully soon I'll be engaging. I'll get you guys for that to purchase a property. But let's see how that goes.
Oh, then you've got my number now.
Absolutely. So, Gretha, what segment of the market do you specialize in? Because, there's so many variations. Where do you put your focus?
I've started off with residential properties, the sale of residential properties, and I absolutely loved it from the beginning. So I only work on residential sales in Windhoek, and I believe that you have to focus on something specific to be really good at it. So that's the reason.
Absolutely. And I mean, do you focus on the entire gambit? Because I checked out online, you offer from, like really the top range of the market to, a more affordable side of the market, but still very tasteful homes. Where do you where do you find yourself working mostly?
Obviously, I love working on the high-priced properties.
Yeah.
That's really where my passion lies. Mm-hmm. But on the smaller, more affordable properties, I also like working on them because then you get to engage with the first-time home buyers. And I like the satisfaction of helping someone find their first home and making it a really good experience for them because it's good for the market. If they have a horrible experience when buying their first home, they just don't buy a house again. So I try and make it a positive experience. So that's very rewarding for me to work in the lower price segment as well.
That's awesome. And I mean, so you're part of someone's, family journey, That's beautiful.
Yes,
unlocking this new chapter for them.
Yes, and over the years I've had the privilege of selling people their first home, their second home and their third home.
Love it. So Gretha, these are difficult financial times. And I think for a younger person getting into the market, it's a spiky tie, But even with subdued or reduced property prices these days, young people are still struggling to purchase property. Do you have any advice? What can we do?
Jochi, yes, indeed. It's still difficult for people to enter the market, but property is an expensive purchase. Yeah. It will be your biggest financial asset that you will ever acquire in your life. For most people, that's the case. So for young people, what I would advise is to get into the market as soon as possible. Don't delay because you are waiting for the perfect property. Your first property will never ever be your dream property, not even your second property.
Yeah.
Maybe from a third property onwards, you will get something that you really absolutely love. But your first and second property, that's just stepping stones to enter the market. So just get into the market as soon as possible. And then the other way to get into the market sooner is obviously to get a combined income.
Yes.
So if you get married or you've got someone else you can buy a house with, immediately you can afford double than what you could have afforded on your own. So it helps to marry someone with a decent job.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So go out there, find love, and you'll find yourself a home.
Yes.
But I think it's absolutely true. You know, time is finite. It's linear. If you not get into the market as early as you can, you know, you're losing time.
You're losing time, and sometimes I meet up with people that are close to their 40s and they've never bought a house before. Now they can't buy a 2-bedroom apartment because they've got a family.
Yeah.
So it becomes more and more difficult to enter the market. When you are just a single person or just a couple, it's easy to start up with something small and basic like a 2-bedroom place and then move up as your family expands.
Absolutely. And if I can maybe just go off the tangent here. In terms of life insurance, also, you need to be insured to be buying a property. And I think when you're younger and a bit more, I wouldn't say more frisky, but a bit more healthy, you could get a bit more of a competitive rate, if that's correct.
Yes, that is correct. You get life insurance easier, and most home loan repayment periods, it's 20 years. So if you buy a house when you're 30, then you're done paying when you're 50.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
And then it's plain sailing from there. And if you take every bonus and every increase that you get and start paying off more and more and more on your property, it is possible to pay off a property between 10 and 15 years. So then you are still in your mid-40s and you've got a paid off property. You stay for free.
Look at that.
So that's the ideal.
Absolutely. And then, you could use that as security for your next property and then just keep on growing your portfolio.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, and if you buy your first property, something small, let's say a 2-bedroom apartment, and you can afford to buy your second property without selling the first one, then the first one starts subsidizing the second one. And so forth.
Yeah.
So then you can build a property empire.
No, wonderful. That's the dream. That's the dream.
That's the dream,
Yeah.
yes.
What steps should I take before I contact a real estate agent?
The first most important step would be to get a pre-qualification.
Yeah.
So a pre-qualification, for those that don't know, it's a certificate that you get from the bank that says what amount they qualify you for. So that's step number one, and it's super important because what I find is people's expectations are always slightly higher than their budget. So sometimes people start looking around before they get the pre-qualification and the bar is set quite high. And then they get their pre-qualification and the affordability is much lower. And the disappointment of adjusting your expectations, it's a lot. So I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah.
And then the second step, I would say, would be to make a list for yourself of the things that you feel you can compromise on and things that you absolutely can't compromise on. So I would say, realistically, the things that a person usually can't compromise on is area, because that you can never change on a property. So the location is super important. Is it close to work? Is it close to schools? Is it in the area that your friends are staying in? So that's important. And then let's say, for instance, like me, you love big trees. A tree doesn't grow in 2 years.
Yeah.
So you've got to buy a house with big trees if you love trees. But if you see a house and it's a horrible color, you can change that. If the kitchen is not your taste, you can change that.
Yeah.
Things like that you can change. So it's important to make a list of what you need and what you want, and then of course to get a real estate agent that you can trust with your dream.
That is brilliant advice. I never thought about that. I always thought you come in, you go to Ferreira's, pop a tree in the ground, and then 5 years later. But who knows where you are in 5 years? And now also like with the pre-qualification, I never thought about it because you're sitting here with $500 in your bank account and you're looking at this $7 million property. It's like, that's not my pass.
And that's all you're going to want.
Yes.
If you set the bar that high, and I've seen, and it's normal, that's ambition. Your expectations are always higher than your budget. So whether you're looking for a $1 million home, you actually would be satisfied with one of $2 million.
Yeah.
Or whether you're looking at a $10 million home, you'd actually be satisfied by a $15 million home.
100%.
So, but that's human ambition.
No. And Gretha, as a seller in a buyer's market, what steps should I take before putting my home on the market?
Okay, so a seller, in a buyer's market, a seller has got quite a bit to do.
Yeah.
So step number one would be to get a valuation on your property. Once again, it's the same as with the purchases. You always think your property is worth more than what it actually is. So don't start dreaming that you're going to sell your house for 10 million. Get a valuation and get a realistic amount and do your dreaming from that amount. So valuations can be done on two ways. It can either be done with the replacement method, so the valuator comes and you look at what it will cost to replace your property. The second way to do a valuation is the comparative sales analysis. So the valuators look at what is sold in your area in the past 6 months to a year, and they base your valuation off that. They can't use the replacement value because most properties now are selling below the replacement value. So valuation is step number one. Step number two is getting your home ready for a sale. So you've got to make sure your home is attractive. So it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but make sure the maintenance is up to date, leaks are fixed, your garden looks nice, your home is clean, your windows are washed. But an experienced agent will definitely be able to guide you through the process and come to your home and give you pointers as to how to make your home more attractive. And then point number three would be to appoint an agent, someone that you trust with your life, because you're going to trust that person with your biggest asset. So it's important to use someone with a good reputation and that's registered with the Estate Agents Board. And then number four, I've left that for last because it's the most horrible thing. It's the municipal compliance. People know about the municipal compliance, but we try and ignore it, especially with the older properties, because over the years you tend to do little things at houses, and then you take your house from compliant to non-compliant.
Yes.
So the municipality comes out and they see whether your house is built exactly according to the plans approved at the municipality. And only with such a certificate can we transfer. But that whole process can run parallel to the marketing of our home.
Sure. And also, if that process is delayed, I mean, it could just frustrate all parties involved and just be costly in terms of interest.
Yes, it frustrates all parties involved. And nowadays, purchasers actually ask me, does this house have compliance? Because they want to have a clean, easy transfer, not waiting for compliance. So it's definitely in a seller's interest to have a compliance ready, to say, but my house is compliant, everything's in place, we just need to sign on the dotted line.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that advice. Gretha Santos. So yeah, we're getting great advice here from, one of the doyens of the local property industry. But we're going to go for a short break now. Please do stay tuned. We'll be back after the break.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
And we're continuing our conversation with Gretha Santos, property industry expert and real estate agent to the stars. Gretha,
I like that.
Yeah, no, because I mean, I've said this in the interview. We've seen your posters, we've seen your boarkies up, we've seen your ads, but getting to interact with you and just I would buy whatever you're selling.
Would you?
Yeah,
Then you better phone me.
Okay, Gretha. So when I'm selling my property, would it be better to engage as many real estate agents as possible for maximum exposure? Or should I really hone in on someone who shares my vision, who I can see is, passionate about finding me the right home that will suit my needs and also my budget? So do I spread wide or do I go for a focused engagement?
Jorge, that's a very interesting question. Most people would say that you need to spread your net as wide as possible. So engage all the agents in Windhoek. But there's a big risk involved in doing that. Yeah. There's something as exposure. You want your house to be exposed, but you don't want your house to be overexposed. And then it's old news. So we've all gone through the property magazines and the websites, and you see the same house with all the agents just from different angles, and the immediate thought of a purchaser is that house is not selling. Those people are desperate. And it doesn't feel to them that they came across this gem, because that's what you want. So that's definitely not the way to go. And then you've got a lot of agents working on your property without anyone taking responsibility for your property. So when something's not going right, or someone's not, or you don't feel they're performing, who do you call? Who out of the 20 agents do you call? So I would definitely say go for less agents. Quality over quantity, 100%. Definitely. So a sole mandate is always preferable. And the reason why a sole mandate is better for the seller is because you engage with one person and you take hands with that one person. And that one person takes full responsibility for your property. And what happens a lot of the times when there are too many agents on a property, they're competing against each other. They're not working for the seller anymore. So they are just signing the contract with the first purchaser that comes across. They're just signing to get that property off the market. And they keep that property sometimes off the market for 3 to 4 weeks while those people are struggling for financing, and then the financing falls through and we start from scratch. And we've lost that window of opportunity I would say the first month of marketing a property. So when you have a sole agent, that agent has time to sift through clients. So you come to me and you say, I don't have a pre-qualification, but I want to buy this house. I've got time to say, Jochie, first go to the bank, get a pre-qualification so we know that when we sign this contract, it's going to go through. And I will communicate that to the sellers and say, this guy is very interested in the property. I've sent him for a pre-qualification, so we can give him an option until he's got his pre-qualification, but we can continue with the marketing in the meantime. So that's definitely in the benefit of the sellers, definitely.
No, I think that's extremely smart, because I also think the amount of traffic now, you're also having so much traffic coming through your home that it might put off certain buyers, because now you have 3 agents viewing or 3 couples viewing the house at the same time. It might not be, for a discerning client that values their privacy and everything, it might get a bit tricky.
Absolutely, and your home is your private space. Now you've got all these people in and out of your house. Some of the agents will come in, you don't even know their faces, but they're there. I think for the seller, that's a very uncomfortable situation to be in, not to know who's going in and out of your home. So
No, absolutely, it's your private space. So brass tacks, Gretha, given all the movements in the market, and I mean with interest rates, and there's so many technicalities out there, is property still a good investment? Because a lot of people are saying you could rent for the rest of your life and not be liable for certain things, and it would come out a bit more economical. But I'm not 100% of that view. But in your view, is property still a good investment?
Yes, property is a fantastic investment and will always be. It's a resource, it's a limited resource, and the good Lord is making new people every single day. It's a basic need to have your own space. So definitely. When we saw the slump in the market from 2016 onwards, a lot of investors started selling off their investment properties. Now, the people who purchased those properties weren't investors again. It was people who purchased the properties to stay in themselves. So what we saw was that the rental properties became less and less and less. So rental prices are still low now, but it will start moving up soon. And as soon as the rental prices start increasing, it's supply and demand. But as soon as rental prices start increasing again, we will see more investors moving into the market again, and even less rental properties available. So yes, property is always a good investment. But the property curve goes like this. There's dips, but the general movement is up.
100%.
Yes.
100%. Wow. No, thank you for that, because it makes absolute sense to me. But when people, around the braai, when they take out a piece of paper, bro, as jy net so maak en jy hier, moenie worry nie.
Oh, that's the problem. Every Tom, Dick and Harry is a property expert in Windhoek. So.
Yes. No, I fully agree. Okay, and describe your ideal client. In your 13 years in the industry, you must have had clients from every spectrum of the sector. But what is your ideal client, and what kind of motivates you when you find that ideal client?
An ideal client is a client who listens to my advice
Yeah.
and follows it. So that's very simple, that's short and sweet. Sometimes people ask for advice, they do exactly the opposite, and things go south. And then I need to, try and pick up the pieces and get us going forward again. But my advice, it's based on experience. So when I give you advice, listen to my advice, and we will definitely find success.
Absolutely. No, that's excellent. And okay, if you're not in this industry, if hubby said, you know what, hier kan maar aanbly by die werk.
Definitely not that.
Yeah, no. But what would you be doing if you weren't in the property market?
It's very difficult for me because my job is actually my hobby as well. So I really love what I do. Many mornings, I've woken up and I thought, today I've got to see this difficult client. Maybe I should just do something else, with my life.
Yeah.
But then by the afternoon, I'm so excited and so energized, with solving the problem that I can't think of anything else, Jochie, to be honest. I really love what I do.
No, and it shows. Gretha, really, thank you so much for taking the time. You've given us such a wonderful perspective and insights into this industry, and we really hope that we can engage you again. But before I let you go, what's your highlight in your 13 years, and also what are some of the challenges that you think could be done away with? In terms of regulations, or whether it's with the financial institutions or with the clients. What are some of the stumbling blocks that you think need to be addressed?
Okay, that's a full question. So let me start at the beginning.
Yeah.
My highlight was when I first won a bank, when I was first a top agent. So in 2010, the first bank I won, I think it was Nedbank, and it was a rush. It was a thrill that I can't explain to anyone. It's like nothing I've ever felt before. Yeah. Because I started as this junior agent and I was looking up to these agents that were winning the competitions, and I thought to myself, will I ever get there? Will I ever get there? And when it happened, I'm still getting goosebumps talking about it. It was magnificent. Wow. It was magnificent to get that recognition from the industry.
But sorry, if I may, you started in 2009. In 2010, yes. You won as Real Estate Agent of the Year.
Yes, I think I found my calling. I've got a close relationship with the Lord, and I think this is what He wanted me to do. Yes. So for me, that was the signal that this is for me. Wow. So yeah, and who doesn't like success?
Absolutely.
Yeah, success is a great motivator in life. Yes.
Okay.
And the challenges when the Bank of Namibia came in with the legislation of the loan-to-value deposits that people had to pay, it was a big knock for the industry, a big knock. Because all of a sudden, what happened in the past was that a young couple would buy their first property, they could afford, after a while, they could afford a second property and keeping the first property. But now they had to put down a 20% deposit. It's changed now to a 10% deposit, but in the past it was a 20% deposit. Yeah. So obviously, what salary earner can put down a 20% deposit in a property? They couldn't. So they had to sell their first property. And what happens when you've got more disposable income? You increase your lifestyle. So there was a property is a forced savings. So the young people were kept out of the property market, were kept out of property investments with these regulations. Yes. So now it's only 10%. It's still difficult for people, but obviously not as difficult as 20%. So that is something I would like to see change. I would like to see ordinary people entering into property investments again, because it is such a stable, easy investment, and it's a passive income. So that's what everybody wants. And then the other thing is there's a lot of agents entering the market without having any experience or any backing from a well-reputable agency. Yes. And then we see stories on social media, agents stealing deposits or doing shaky deals, and that puts the whole industry in disrepute. So I would like to see that change. I would like to see the requirements for new agents entering the market being higher, so that we can have a good standard of agents, and so people can trust who they work with. It's not just a certificate, not just you're registered with the Estate Agents Board, but you are a trustworthy person.
No, that is key, because I mean, also we're not we're not selling sweets here.
No,
Yes.
it's expensive, and we work with people's life savings.
Yeah.
So it's really important to know that you're working with someone that you can trust with your life and your money.
100%. And of course, Gretha de Santos is definitely one of them. Greta, thank you so much for taking the time once again. Really appreciate it. And yes, once again, kudos on your beautiful home and also what you've done to get people into their beautiful dream homes. So kudos. And where can people reach you?
Yochi, thank you very much. It was really nice spending this morning with you. People can reach me if you Google Gretha de Santos. You will get me there. My cell phone number, my email address. I work at Just Property. My boards are the whole of on every corner in the streets. So it's very easy to find me. Yes. But do you want me to give my cell phone number?
No, maybe your email address.
Okay, my email address is my name. It's Gretha, Gretha, at sold.com.na.
Love that. At sold. Boom. That's the proof.
It's positive thinking.
Proof is in the pudding.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Greta, and kudos once again. And we hope to have you on the show in future.
Yes, that would be nice. Thank you, Yochi. Thank you for having me.
What's up?
Okay.